Nigeria's 2023 general elections proved to be perhaps the most keenly contested in our recent democratic history. The political upsets staged by several political underdogs who defeated established political gladiators during the presidential and National Assembly elections in February became an eye-opener for politicians who returned to the trenches to woo the electorate for the March 18 governorship and state houses of assembly elections. The March 18 polls have also come and gone, but echoes from the polls draw attention to the need for further electoral reforms to sustain the enthusiasm and confidence of the Nigerian electorate in the electoral process. And like we did for the presidential and National Assembly elections, this episode of 30 Minutes shall take stock of the peculiarities of the March 18 polls with a view to identifying the positives and the pitfalls. It's good to have you join us on the program. I am Mitaire Ikpen. The March 18 polls became another litmus test for INEC. But to what extent did the electoral umpire and various political actors live up to expectations? Ekene Ndulwe takes stock of the March 18 polls in our first report.
18th March 2023 was a date Nigerians had with history. A day for citizens to elect their governors in 28 out of 36 states in Nigeria, and also elect houses of assembly members from the 993 state constituencies across the country. Coming on the heels of the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections, expectations were high that the Independent National Electoral Commission will learn from previous challenges and deliver on the promise to conduct an election that will pass the integrity test. Thousands of election observers, both local and international groups, were deployed to monitor the election process as the election umpire crossed the T's and dotted the I's with a promise to keep to the election manual. The D-Day came, and true to their words, the polls opened early in majority of the polling units observed, a contrast to observations made during the presidential election, where late arrival of voting materials delayed the election process.
According to the data collected by our observer through Usabi, elections started very early in more than 70% of the polling units we monitored across the country. We applaud this development by the Independent National Electoral Commission, and we hope that we maintain this standard of timeliness going forward.
Our observers noted that most polling units opened on time, with materials present and election officials ready to serve the voter. However, there was less pressure on INEC operations throughout the day, owing to a dismal level of voter participation.
Despite these improvements, it was not yet uhuru for Nigeria's election process, as violence, ethnic profiling, and voter suppression were recorded in some states across the federation.
Nevertheless, polling on election day was again disrupted by multiple incidents of thuggery, intimidation of voters, polling officials, observers, and journalists, and this occurred in most of the states. Lagos and Kano, as well as other states across the southern and central areas, were most affected. Vote buying, also directly observed by EU EOM observers, further detracted from an appropriate conduct of the election in many places.
We've identified 6 areas that the 2023 governorship elections have contributed to Nigeria's ongoing democratic journey, positively or negatively. The first is that violent conduct around polling units and the collation of results increases the risk of post-election litigation or the prospect of supplementary elections. And this has the added effect of seeing courts have a role in determining who is seen to be elected, further undermining the sense that the voters have that their vote is valued and that whoever is eventually declared reflects their choices. Nigeria's identity divisions have been more pronounced in these elections, with narratives amplified by online discourse further contributing to accentuating these identity cleavages. Whether to promote conventional zoning arrangements or whip up ethnic concerns to support voter bases, this has heightened the sensitive political climate that has led to an acrimonious voting process. And instances of systematic disenfranchisement on the basis of ethnicity and the expectation that would translate into votes for another party will also lead to more partisanship and division in incoming administrations.
Security agencies should properly investigate polling units that experience political violence and thuggery and make sure that justice is served by bringing perpetrators to face the consequences of their acts.
Once again, the involvement of women in Nigeria's political space seems to have taken a backseat, as only 2 female politicians were fielded by the prominent political parties for the governorship election in the 28 states where elections were conducted.
11,000 candidates competed in the state elections, among whom only a bare 10% were women. Notably, lead political parties fielded only 2 female candidates for highly prized governor seats. It demonstrates clear underrepresentation of women in political life. Most importantly, it also shows the lack of internal party policies to support and promote inclusion of women.
For persons living with disabilities, the March 18 election fell short of their expectations in terms of availability of assistive devices.
South Africa had expected that the provision of the Electoral Act mandating the Independent National Electoral Commission to provide assistive tools for persons with disabilities at the polling units where registered will be sufficiently implemented. Unfortunately, this obligation was treated with laxity in most polling units with registered persons with disabilities, thereby frustrating their participation in the electoral process. From the observed polling units, 36% had Braille ballot guides for the visually impaired, 24% had magnifying glasses for persons with albinism, and 67% had large font graphic posters for the deaf. It is noteworthy that South Africa's findings are based on reports from 331 sampled polling units and analyzed in the Persons with Disabilities Election Hub.
A proper audit of the distribution of assistive devices should be carried out to ascertain what the cause and gaps were that led to the poor availability of assistive devices to identify polling units with persons with disability.
The use of beavers and IREF portals were another passmark for the electoral umpire. However, human interference at the point of manual collation of results raised issues of concern.
The use of election technology was more efficient this time around. A notable change if compared to the 25th of February election, when more than a quarter of presidential result forms were still missing at the declaration of the results on the 1st of March.
In some of the results that are uploaded on the IREV, when you zoom in, you cannot even tell what exactly the result has said. And I think that as we reform the institution and provide reform on the Electoral Act, for every result that would be uploaded must have the signature of every party agent. If a result is uploaded and the party agents are not assented to it, it should be discarded.
With the general elections over and stocks being taken, Save for some pending federal constituencies and inconclusive elections, observers are already setting agenda for the incoming 10th legislature. They are advocating a review of the 2022 Electoral Act and the election manual with a view to addressing the challenges observed in the just concluded election.
The 10th National Assembly has a critical role to play on the amendment of the Electoral Act, particularly how we're able to provide a reform that unbundles INEC as an institution. Because in our democracy and our politics, election is the first step. And if we get it wrong, then our democracy would be in shambles, and Nigerian people will not enjoy the dividends of democracy. And in unbundling INEC as an institution, first, how does the chairman of INEC emerge? And most importantly, how do resident electoral commissioners emerge, and who exactly are they answerable to? So for us to get it right, we must unbundle this institution and make her truly independent. If INEC is independent, there's no need for her to read Independent National Electoral Commission. It should be National Electoral Commission, and should be saddled with the responsibility of overseeing every election, both at the local level, the state, and the national level.
It does not end there, as observers are also advocating stiff penalties for electoral offences.
Certainly, Ekene, speedy prosecution of electoral offenders who have been arrested will serve as deterrent and raise public confidence on electioneering in Nigeria. Garba Natala in our next report takes a look at the intrigues that shaped the elections and other factors that influenced the electoral process.
Many intrigues and surprises defined and characterized the March 18th polls, in particular as well as the 2023 general elections. Several youthful politicians who contested elective positions emerged victorious, defeating long-standing politicians. For example, 26-year-old Rukiat Shitu emerged as member-elect in Kwara State. Many already anticipate robust contributions from her when she assumes her position as member of the Kwara State House of Assembly. Rukiat bears her mind in this interview.
It wasn't something so easy, very challenging. There are a lot of obstacles. But one thing I believe in life is we will always face this. Even outside politics, there is life. So it is full of roller coasters. We have seen this. It is just about how we manage it, how we drink water to all of this thing. But at the end, I am glad we are all smiling for victory. In my own manifesto, which I put out during my declaration of intention, then I put 4 points out, which the first one is the quality representation, while the second one is the legislative advancement, the third one is the executive oversight, and the fourth one is the constituency outreach. And when we talk about this constituency outreach, it is about needs assessment. Whatever I will be doing there, it will be based on need assessment. And anybody that is coming in to support this cause, that want to collaborate with this cause, we will firstly go on needs assessment.
Also, Lawan Musa, a 34-year-old volunteer teacher in Yobe State, defeated the serving Speaker of Yobe State House of Assembly in Guru 2 State Constituency election.
I want to assure that my constituency, I shall give them good representation.
Such political feats, observers note, are indicative of the fact that the not too young to run bill signed by President Muhammadu Buhari in May 2018 encouraged more youth participation in the nation's democratic process.
In every electioneering experience or exercise, there will always be surprises. There will always be things that are peculiar to a particular exercise ever since our democratic experience in Nigeria. The current one that we just passed by, talking about the presidential elections and the National Assembly elections, even the governorship, I'll still come to that. We had youths that took over reins of leadership democratically in the legislature.
The outcome of the March 18 polls revealed undemocratic tendencies as witnessed by observers. However, analysts note that Nigeria's political culture is evolving and having direct bearing on the electoral process.
What surprises me most is some electorates, especially politicians, that are taking advantage of the loopholes in the process to violate the process.
Part of the electorate, what they've succeeded in demonstrating is that regardless of the challenges that they encountered, they're able to ensure that their vote actually counts, their voices, their yearnings and aspiration is being reflected by the type of people that they elected. There are a lot of surprises that came up, and it's a shared act of dexterity on the part of the electorate. They wanted certain people to represent them, and they got their wishes. And as I said earlier, there are a lot of constraints, but in spite of all those constraints, people still went out, they voted, they ensured their vote count, and this time around, Beavers played a lot of magic in terms of ensuring credibility of this election.
Also, analysts believe that voter turnout among the electorates in the southwest and southeast was influenced by ethnic attachment. In the case of the north, some analysts attribute voter turnout to citizens' dissatisfaction with the performance of sub-national governments to improve their socio-economic well-being.
Nobody gets to Aso Rock or any government house, be it at the local, state, or federal, and runs government with contents of the Holy Bible or that of the glorious Quran. Nobody does that. You run governance with the content of the Constitution of the Federal Republic, which is the ground norm of the society. So religion, ethnic things are just sentiments. Competence is what matters. And once somebody says, this is my choice, let it be. Let's move forward. Then you have a right to now choose and vote for whoever you feel it. Nobody is going to gag anybody from voting.
The presidential election sent a lot of shockwaves. The Labour Party was a relatively new party in terms of its acceptability. It came in with the candidature of Peter Obi, came in as as a party that people saw that had no structure. But winning is a very, very vibrant state like Lagos and pulling almost over 6 million votes was very instructive. That shows that Nigerians are beginning to feel that they can make a change, their votes can count. To that extent, the election revealed so many things that going forward, Nigerians can actually dictate the tempo of their leadership by themselves.
While various issues and intrigues shaped the conduct and the outcome of the 2023 general elections, observers are already advocating areas INEC need to improve upon.
To me, INEC have tried. Honestly, they have tried. There's great improvement from what transpired in 2015, 2019, and today. There's great improvement. But especially the beavers, all they need to do is to improve on beavers and also the ad hoc staffs, so that at least whenever there's an election, data generated must be uploaded immediately by the ad hoc staffs. And the party too, they should learn that most of the complaints they are doing, they are not supposed to blame INEC, but their agents, because it is the agents, they have their agents there. When their agents are not up and doing, then definitely there will be some change.
In the first instance, we got from reports, over 2 million hits to the INEC server by whoever, wherever, fifth columnists from all over the world. We don't know why they are trying to do whatever it is they were doing to the server. But it could be suspected to be those who wanted to, play some games. When you talk about computer, the IT world is garbage in, garbage out. And it's about network. So those who think they have the know-how to try to, in a way, do what is untowards to the process of INEC have been trying from wherever they are, hidden the world over. But INEC had to, a little bit shut down and then use wisdom to ensure they did what they did. Because they know that, as declared by the Federal High Court, that yes, INEC said, oh, transmit via beavers, IRF and all that. But according to that provision, the law, it is only like that INEC that reserves the right to transmit, write down physically, communicate results of election in whatever way and means they so desire. The law, the judgment is there for everybody to see, and the law is well written in black and white. So on that aspect, INEC is covered. So those of us who had concerns about that, we take solace in that, because the good books says wisdom is profitable to direct. Do you want me to still continue to transmit when I knew that I'm having some illegal, attacks, cyber attacks? So what will happen? You want my 100 to turn to 1,000, or 1 million to turn to 10 at the landing? No.
They also speak on lessons learned so far and how these lessons can impact the electoral process. The question now: what measures can institutions and political actors take to pursue reconciliation and national unity after the elections? Some of the analysts bear their minds.
There's always a winner and there's always a loser. In any election, there must be a winner, there must be a loser. Political parties that have lost will have to look inward. How did we lose this election? Then they take corrections and try to bring everybody on board and reconcile. And not just that, even the winner, if you win an election, you have to think, how did we win? What effort are we going to put henceforth to continue winning an election? And if you win an election, you are coming to take over government. And in taking over government, you know that there's issues leading to the process that gets you elected are flaws. So you need to bring everybody on board, be a governor for everybody, reconcile states and the citizens so that at least you have a smooth governance.
In the presidential election, the results were not uploaded in real time, which was a very major minus to the INEC. Also, the distribution of election materials, especially the commencement of elections. In many areas, there were complaints of late arrival of materials. Those things have to be properly done. Then incidents of violence. The INEC must find a way of reducing violence or punishing those that are perpetrating this violence. If we don't reduce the level of violence in our electoral process, then we are going to have a lot of challenges because the elections are not going to be credible, because people will now participate on the basis of fear.
Then the issue of electoral offenders. We have a lot of lawyers in Nigeria that, with as a form of patriotic contribution to the country, they could prosecute some of these cases pro bono or with a token that a form of honorarium. If the Ministry of Justice they have so much in their hands, if the legal department of INEC have so much, they could devise means. They could engage the services of private legal practitioners, and then they could collaborate. Already the police have submitted their report, their temporary report, and they've made a very huge arrest in terms of electoral offenders. What will happen to them will determine how we want to continue to have our electioneering.
They are urging the electoral umpire to put in place viable structures for a much more transparent and inclusive electoral process devoid of undue interference.
Many thanks, Garba. Elections come and go, but Nigeria remains their country. There is growing advocacy for winners to be magnanimous in victory, as they cannot afford to win election and lose society. The election management bodies are also enjoined to do a thorough appraisal of the 2023 general elections and take all measures to ensure that perpetrators of irregularities are sanctioned. The clarion call is for Nigerians to join hands and build the nation and not destroy the fabric of society, to defend democracy and make it truly government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's where we leave it today on 30 Minutes. We thank you for your time. Remember, a fresh episode beckons next week, and it promises to be an interesting package as well. I am Mitaire Ikpen. See you next time.